citizen, what you think the leaders should do, and then what do you think if one institution, the role everybody has to play. Thank you. Welcome once again. My name is Tony Olisa Mbeki, and today we'll be looking at protest as a tool in a democratic organization, in a democratic setting, or we can talk about the power of protest in democracy, whichever way you are trying to look at it. Joining me to look at this very topic this very morning, I have in the studio with me Shinedu Peter. As usual, it's my pleasure to welcome you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and to the listeners all over the world, thank you for joining us.
All right, let's begin by asking the first question. What is protestation? Because from the word protestation, we derive this protest as a noun. The question is, what is protest? Before we narrow it down as far as democracy is concerned, let's begin with what protest is all about.
Okay, protest in its express definition is people expressing their disapproval and their dissent regarding policies, especially when it got to do with government. Even government itself protest. So protest is a daily life. Even your children protest in your family life. Protest is just an essential part of humanity. Then when it comes to politics and governance, it balances the equation. It stabilizes the government. It protects the people from the people in government. It protects, it's just like a guard to the piloters of the affairs of governance. Without protest, or without the possibilities of protest, definitely power will be abused. Definitely people tend to do or move away from the aspiration of the people. Don't forget that when you talk about governance or government is a machinery through which the will and aspiration of the people is carried out. And when the people feel that the government policies and do not represent their aspiration or do not impact on them the dividends of democracy, they tend to protest. And there are so many ways to do this protest. Unfortunately, protest is currently being demonized in Nigeria. Unfortunately. Because currently when you say, let's go and protest, people become afraid. People become apprehensive. They look at it that if you come out, they kill you. You look at it that if you come out, they jail you. You don't need to speak up. So protest is something that even the government should protect. The government in place today, they enjoyed protest as part of their privilege and right as citizens of Nigeria. The person of President Mohammed Buhari, he led a protest against the governance or government under Goodluck Jonathan. So there is no justification whatsoever to try to gag protest in any way. There is no justification to that. In fact, if you gag protest today, don't forget that you are in power today, tomorrow you leave. And the system, the environment, you don't leave it. You become a victim of what you've done. So protests help us to balance our society and help government to function, and also redirect government to the aspiration and the will of the people. Because if the people don't protest, the people in government will assume that everything is all right, whereas they are dying of hunger. Whereas when there is policies that could create jobs, for instance, for young people, and these jobs, they are not getting it, the youth will protest. And sometimes protest helps to inform those people, your guys at the top. You know, they are too far away from the people. So protests help to remind them that some of the policies they are making is not getting down to the people. So that is the problem. So that is exactly why protest is essential part of our daily life, especially in the democratic dispensation.
I think we have about 198 methods of non-violent action.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, you can call protest. There are many of them. But
Exactly.
then, if you ask which one do you think is the most potent, amongst them we have formal statements as a way of protestation, and you also have communication with wider audience, something like banners, caricatures, symbols, and leaflets, and what have you. You also have the one that has to do with symbolic public arts, that has to do with prayer and worship. There's so many of
So
them.
many of them.
Even the one that has to do with marches, and then I think assemblies, protests, camouflage, and all that. So amongst these things, because you've established that protest is more like a communication strategy with which the governed communicate to those in government that we are disapproving this, or we are disapproving that, we don't like this, we don't like that. Don't you think this comes up especially when government is not engaging the people in certain decision making processes? Don't you think that's when protest comes up?
Of course, of course. Definitely, people will protest when their aspiration is not reflected by the decisions of government. If the government carries the people along, or if the government have listening ear, like just what you mentioned now, as a form of statement, we started this program from the anti-open grazing bill, which we stated that this bill, drafted bill, had been sent to the government houses, to the state governors, to the House of Assemblies, and the people were expecting a response from the government. So it starts with making a statement. You are not doing this. We expect you to do this. And the people will sit back to watch. And when it is not coming up, they take it further by coming, maybe organizing themselves, coming in front of your office and say, we have sent you this thing. Why don't you look into it? And they will give them some politically corrected, statements. They will go. And they will look forward. Things are not happening. They will come back and say, no, we no go agree. Or you try to modify their demand or try to water it down. People will say, no, this is not what we are interested in. This is what we are demanding. Now, coming to NSAS, like we pointed out clearly what NSAS mean. No matter what the politicians or the people in government try to paint it, the NSAS is clearly defined. It is much more than police brutality, and they know that. And I'm sure that they've been able to understand that the youths of Nigeria is not just demanding for police brutality to end, but to end wicked and oppressive government that do not represent the aspiration of the people. So that is exactly why, if, for instance, the people in government do not communicate effectively or try to use this suppressive tendency on the people, definitely the people will revolt, and that results sometimes to violent protest.
Okay, and then remember, we have different forms of reactions coming from government each time there's protest. Why do you think governments wouldn't want any form of protest? Let's now to Nigeria and then to elsewhere. Most people in government wouldn't want such protests going on. They wouldn't want it to take effect. Why do you think they may reason in such form?
Honestly speaking, it is natural when there is protest. That means the people in government, it's normal that they will not be really comfortable with it. That shows that they are failing. It's just like a report card that you are failing us. You are not doing what you expected to do. So a normal person will not feel well when he's not performing well. But how you go about it is now where you have disparity between what is obtainable in developed countries and a country like Nigeria. So now, when we narrow it down to Nigeria, why is it that, for instance, we see NSAS protests? They were very organized, very systematic, and there was no rancor, there was no any form of violence. There's no trace. People go there, their phone doesn't get lost. Their properties, when you lose it, they'll announce, come and pick it. Anything that they were properly organized. In the morning, they'll come do sanitation, clean up, and they do everything together. You see, the Muslims, when they are praying, the Christians will gather around them. When the same vis-a-vis, being introduced, which we saw, coming from the people we're expecting that they should show the way, the leaders they call them, they should show the way, now encouraging or introducing violence into the peaceful protest. That is their own way to respond, to cushion or to suppress by force. Don't speak. Even there is no way you can beat someone and ask the person not to cry. That is exactly the thing. They have a way to handle protest. They see it as it is a right. It is enshrined in the Constitution. In fact, it is even the police and the if it's even the work and responsibility of staff, you understand, to protect the protesters. That is their responsibility. We are not obtaining approval from them because the approval have already been given by the Constitution. So the response of government in Nigeria to protest is really not good. They politicize it. They look at it. You see someone. We've seen a situation whereby you stage a protest, and the next minute, other people will stage counter protest. We've seen paid protest in broad daylight. They do it without even SARS protest, and right there, immediately they mobilize a counter protest. And when you look at these things, you see they try to politicize. They try to see it as it is the opposition that is trying to bring it in to undermine our own government. No, what they should do is to engage the people, bring the people in. What are your demands? This is our demand. Then you start showing commitment. We are not saying that you're going to do all of that in a minute. You start showing commitment that you want to deal with some of these challenges that have been pointed out. So that is exactly why things have not really worked when it comes to protesting in Nigeria.
So let's talk about this issue of cost of governance. What if the people also attach as one of the demands that we want reduction in cost of governance?
It is part of the answer.
And if you look at it, you find out that these people may not want to give in easily. Our leaders, our politicians, they may not want to give in easily because they know that one gonna affect them. Because when you told them that you don't want their convoy to be as large as it is, you want it to be reduced to a certain number, you wouldn't want them to change vehicles on yearly basis, you want them to change vehicles this time around after 3 years, or probably use one vehicle throughout their whole time. And also ensure maintenance, because those things do not count more. What count more will be the lives of those who are being governed, to ensure that their welfare and their security, these two things, are well protected and provided for by the government. Don't you think there could be a time government will say, we are not going to listen to this demand, because this demand, we cannot negotiate it.
It's not for them to say that, because the power belongs to the people. They are just mere servants. Just put yourself in a position where you have a paid worker in your office, and you've defined his terms and responsibility, and your worker is not telling you that because he is your accountant, he will determine how much you take home as the CEO of the company. It is absurd that when you have a servant in your house that you are paying on daily or monthly basis to take care of your household, to wash your cars, clean up your environment, tidy up everything. He's now telling you that, listen, this house, I'm in control, and you don't have anything to do about it. He will be the one to tell you how much to pay him. Does it work? It doesn't work. And when it comes to that point, he has the right to, listen, he has the right to say, you are going to pay me 1 million, 10 million, or whatsoever. But it is the right and privilege of the owners of the land, the people, to say, we cannot afford it. We show you the way.
Now the question now is, are you trying to, with your analogy, to say that the people are the one paying those in government?
Of course. We are on daily, even the keke driver out there are the ones paying our governor Obiano and paying all the public servants. They are, of course,
they generate, government use it for one thing or the other.
They use it mainly majority of the budget of the state goes in servicing this expensive, lavish governance expenditure. Spending on motorcades, spending on things that do not matter. Governance in Nigeria is too expensive.
All right, now the question now is, if we are the people who pay our political leaders, how then do they determine what comes to them? Don't you think that if we are the one that pay them, we'll be able to say, this is what we're going to pay you? Just like you narrated in your own explanation that if you have a household, and probably hire accountant, hire somebody who manages your firm, and the person comes out and say that as the owner of the firm, you're going to take this, you're going to take that. You are saying in the other way around, is the owner of the firm that determines who takes what. And you have said now that the people are like the owner of the farm.
Yeah.
And they are supposed to determine what goes in, or what these political leaders are paid, even when they have hired these political leaders to manage
Exactly.
the affairs of the country or the affairs of the state. They hire these people through electioneering process for them to manage these things.
Exactly.
And you are saying that they are the one paying them, but they are the one managing the affairs because people hire them, and you are saying the people are supposed to determine what they are going to be paid with. But we don't see that in reality happening like that.
The reason is because the people have been docile all this while, and that is why it is very important this program continues. It is very essential that we sustain good governance ministry. Just like in church, I keep saying it, they give you deliverance from oppression of the spiritual forces. Here, we deliver you from the oppression of bad and failed government. Why we must continue is to wake up the people to understand the powers they have. The people have the power, and not the people in power. Now, let me tell you, what is happening in our society is an abuse of office. You hire someone to be, people represent everyone in from various constituencies at the state level up to the federal level. Good. Now, when they get there, pali, RNG, they decide for themselves to increase their salary from what it should be to an extravagant amount of money. And for the fact that they are the ones, even though the money is not even enough, they can go and borrow money from external to pay themselves. And they pay themselves first before thinking of paying other workers like lecturers, like doctors that are serving in public hospitals. Every day we hear schools are on strike because of unpaid salary. Every day we hear doctors are on strike because of unpaid salaries and allowances. Every day we hear even police. Sometimes I heard that the police people were trying to go on strike. You can imagine what will happen. So when these things happen, you see it is a failure and abuse of those in power. Because this money they are spending can be channeled properly. You see someone, you have a governor, you have more than 300, 1,000 essays. You are a senator, you have many essays and have many allowances, and you get all of that without thinking about the people first.
All right, because see, when you say A's, one would also argue that these A's, they are there as a result of what the governor feels for the youths, or probably for the people, by engaging them, by trying to empowering them for them to be meaningful. Because once these people are appointed and they are empowered, definitely they can circulate the flow of money to elsewhere. They have argued in many ways, they have said this many times, that by having more XAs is a way of empowering the people. That's what they say. But then you are laughing over that.
My dear, it's so laughable, honestly speaking. You see these handouts. It's just, I say, they are just hiring more praise singers. They are just hiring more praise. People that will come out and praise sing and say, oh, Ijebego, oh, Inemofuma. Whereas, the majority, how many youth do you think, for instance, Anambra State, in Anambra State, how many youth do you think, and you hire like 1,000 among millions? Why don't you make policy that will open up the door for millions of Anambra youths to be economically viable and independent and contribute back into the system through taxes? Now, When you see this handout, like I say, when sometimes when we talk about this NSAS, and they started coming up with some of these handouts, and we are going to start paying students, then this one 30,000. I see it as a bribe to cajole or to even water down this protest. But I must tell you, Nigerian youths are not lazy. Nigerian youths are ready to work. They are workforce. They have the strength, they have the intelligence, they have the desire, the drive. But the problem is that the environmental factor, and you give them this money, and suddenly from the back, the money is taken away from them. It doesn't work that way.
All right, one would want to ask, definitely, the people have expressed this concern on certain policies of government. Let's take, for instance, the issue of securing votes.
Okay.
Many people do not want it, but then they don't know how to make it to come to fruition. That we don't want this. We want to stop to this. Security force, has been a vehicle, has been a practice, has been a tradition with which political leaders, some people say siphon money, divert money, or have access to funds for them to execute certain things that are not accounted for. And but we know very well that these security forces are appropriated for, because the representatives at the state level or at the federal level come up with certain contingency funds that are being given different nomenclatures. If you don't call it contingency fund, if you don't call it uncertainty fund, if you don't call it security fund, there are different names that are being denoted too. But the point is, people have seen that is a way with which they channel money, buy properties abroad, and they do a lot of things, and they don't want this. Do you think they can put a stop to that? And how?
The people can. To be honest with you, when you talk about security votes, giving some of these things different nomenclature, look at the society. Does it have a reflection positively on the life of the people? The answer is no. So all these names and nomenclature and assigning billions, what impact is it making in the society? You don't see it anywhere. That is to tell you that the system is a failure. Now, the people should understand how this democratic structure works. Yes, you have people as lawmakers. They are supposed to checkmate the executive. But what we see today is pali-pali. Government of, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. I'll make law to increase your security vote. You will sign it. And I'll also make law to increase my own. You will also sign it. Whereas the people are dying. That is the problem. And it starts from the people. Listen, many people, in fact, one of the things I will achieve on this platform is that the people are able to realize that they own the power, that the power resides on them. And the way they exercise it, one true way, is through political process. There is nothing that humbles politicians, no matter how high-handed they are or how highly placed they can be. Once the election knocks around the corner, you see them frying akara on the street. You see them walking in the marketplaces, embracing you. You see them coming very close to you. Some of them will even come to your shop and help you to serve your customers in your restaurant. That is how election can humble them. But they are not doing it because they love you. They are doing it because momentarily they want your vote. They want to take that thing that they desire so much, that power you have. They want to take it from you. And that is why when they take that power from you in the form of mandate, they see themselves as Lord and lord it over you for another 4 years. Now, the conscience of the society must be woken up, because our system has so demoralized the consciousness of the society that they have accepted the norms of buying and selling votes doesn't count and all the rest of them. So anything goes. If they bring money, you take it. The one that you shop, that one you go carry go. You sell your vote. You see somebody that have not added value. I've seen people contesting for election. Some people that are already posing to organize the people. We are here to organize the people so that leadership will emerge from the people. That is what democracy is defined as. The people